Hey, what's up? My name's Caleb, and if you can't tell, I'm married. Today, I want to talk about the real raw lessons that my first year of marriage taught me as a young man. For those that don't know my story or me or anything about me, I've been married to my wife for nearly 2 years now, but we've been together for 9 years total. Many of those years long distance. She's Brazilian, I'm American, and that's a whole other story how we met, how we navigate a long distance. That's a whole other story in itself. But we've been living together, married as a couple for about a year and a half now, and marriage has taught me a ton of valuable lessons that I believe have made me a better man that I want to share with you guys today. Um, these lessons are for people that are either preparing for marriage, that want a little bit of insight into what marriage is like in a positive, hopefully, situation, and also for those of you that have been married for a while and maybe you need some advice on how to sort of navigate some things. And even though I am young, I like to think and believe that me and my wife have a very healthy relationship that others can model. It may sound sort of arrogant. I'm not trying to make it sound that way, but I genuinely believe we have a really, really positive relationship and approach things the right way. Been very mature about it from the start. So, um, I'll go right into it, I suppose. The first thing is you guys need to align on core values. Something that marriage has taught me is that having core values, the same core values, is going to make almost every aspect of marriage easier to navigate, period. Why is this? Because if you guys have differing values, you guys may have different interests, you may have different sort of opinions on some things, but if your core values are the same, you're going to work out. There's a good chance you're going to work out. There's a good chance that you can handle arguments better because when you're both working from the same foundation, which are those pillars, those values that you have, then you can always resort back to that. If you guys get into an argument, if you get into any sort of discussion and maybe a heated argument or you're I don't know whatever it may be, or you're making a decision together but you can't really agree on the decision, if you guys have the same shared core values, that's going to help you navigate that so much easier. Because imagine if you guys have differing foundations, what she may see as something that's immoral or wrong, you may see as right. And if you have these sorts of um I don't know how to describe it. If you have sort of these differing values and viewpoints and perspectives on these really important principles and building blocks of life, it's going to be really hard to get past certain topics. It's going to be really hard to get over certain things when you both can't sort of come back to this foundation of yours, right? So that's the first thing that I noticed early on in my marriage that has been a tremendous help for me and my wife. Me and my wife don't really argue or bicker a lot. We're really chill. But a lot of that comes and stems from having the same core values, right? A lot of that's avoided if you just start out that way. So for those of you that are looking to get married, that has to be a priority. It's okay if she doesn't like sports and you like sports. It really doesn't matter. What matters is these core principles. The second thing that and I have my notes here, so if you see me looking that way, I want to make sure I get this right. The second thing is selflessness. I think that a lot of people get into marriage thinking, what can I get out of it instead of what can I be pouring into it? How can I be pouring into my partner? Whereas a lot of people tend to be thinking with the mentality of, okay, what can I get out of my partner? What can I get for this commitment? And that's a really flawed way to look at things as a married couple. People say you got to be 50-50. I disagree with that. I don't like that phrase. I don't think that's factual or helpful. It needs to be 100-100. What do I mean by that? It means that you need to be pouring 100% into your wife, and your wife needs to be pouring 100% into you. It has to be 100-100 in terms of wanting to pour into the relationship, right? If your priority is yourself, and how am I doing? What can I get? Whatever it may be, it's you're gonna have a hard time in marriage. It's not going to work out. You need to approach marriage with a selflessness, and that ties back to having those same core guiding principles and values. Because if one of your values is humility, selflessness, that's gonna help instigate this, right? It's gonna help you. It's sort of gonna be part of what you guys are doing to begin with, or at least trying to do. You're not gonna be perfect, okay? It's not gonna be, there's sometimes you're going to be feeling like you got done wrong, right? However, you need to really approach marriage with a selfless attitude. Don't think about what can I get out of it. Think about how can I pour in. And if both of you approach that marriage that way, you're gonna be fruitful. Like it's gonna be a really special relationship because you guys are not gonna be felt like, oh, I'm giving the short end of the stick where I feel like I put too much and she puts too little. Both put in 100%. So selflessness is another. It's a huge thing in marriage that you have to approach it with this sort of mentality early on, and that's why I'm mentioning it this early because these two things, selflessness, and then having those core principles right there, that's gonna solve a lot of potential problems down the line, and it's gonna help make a really powerful and strong foundation that's gonna be tough to shake you guys from, right? Next is communication. This is maybe like the third pillar of how to avoid problems combined with the last two. Communication, this is pretty, you've heard this before, but what does that actually mean in practice? What does communication mean in practice? Because there is a bad way to communicate. Okay, if you're communicating with screaming and a lot of blaming and a lot of name calling, whatever it may be, that's not good communication. Calling out, saying, why aren't you doing this, why aren't you doing that? That's not good communication. You have to have communication to begin with, but you need to approach it in the right way. The first thing that I highly recommend, and that was something that me and my wife did, was set out expectations early. And this means everything. You can't be disappointed if your expectations already been set, right? So if you know what to expect and your partner knows what to expect, the expectations are very clear early on, then you can't, no one can feel hard done, right? And this involves everything. This involves your chores. This involves sex. This involves um job, earnings, investing practices, right? Your finances in that case. This involves the expectations with your families, communication with your in-laws. How much are we going to share? You have to set expectations for everything. Even if you think it's small, you have to set expectations. And that's a huge part of communicating. Then the other part of communicating is that's more of a proactive approach to communicating, setting expectations. You definitely do that. That's really important. Now there's a more reactive communication, which is you felt something that your partner did that you didn't like, that you didn't appreciate. All of a sudden now you need to react, right? Oh, I didn't really like that. Some people and some guys particularly, and this is for you men out there who don't like to share your feelings. This is for you men out there that, whatever. I'll just shake it off, whatever. Look, those little, what's that? Death by a thousand cuts. That phrase. Little things like that you feel slighted in, you may feel hurt a little bit in, and that happens continually. It builds up. So a lot of us guys like to be tough, whatever, no big deal. I'm not gonna be a baby about it. But those cuts, those little slight cuts tend to build up into you're bleeding out, right? And so it's important to communicate immediately when something is bothering you. Okay. If your wife says something that you feel is just a bit disrespectful, again, it's about approaching communication in the right form. You have to say, hey, look, I understand that you probably didn't intend this to be. I I understand that you didn't intend this to be something hurtful, but I didn't really appreciate what you said or how you said that because even though I understand that that wasn't your intention, that's how it felt for me, right? It's an example of communicating properly immediately when something happens. Don't let stuff build up. Don't let it build up. If you have a problem with it, if something's been nagging you, whatever it may be, communicate. Please talk it because you can't expect your partner to read your mind. And then some people they start to get bitter, start to get colder towards their spouses. Instead of just saying it, just say what the problem is, right? Like be upfront, right? Communication is massive from both a proactive and reactive I guess perspectives, right? So communication, huge. I mean, these three last things that I said, aligning on core values, selflessness, and communication are going. That right there is, if I just gave you those three, you would be really well equipped to have a very beautiful and blessed marriage. But something else that has taught me that I've learned personally that this one is more particularly impactful to me because I was very independent for a very long time is taking initiative and being intentional as a man in the relationship. So before I got married with my wife, we were long distance, right? Most of the time was spent by myself. I became very independent. I had my own projects and jobs that I like to do, my own ambitions, right? And so I was always very independent. All of a sudden, I had someone else living with me. I didn't have that. Um, I, I had something to be conscious about, right? And this is where taking initiative and being intentional comes into plays because sometimes us guys, we're good just chilling at home, doing our thing, working on our projects, building something up, playing games, watching TV, whatever it may be. But we have to think about, hey, am I being intentional about spending positive quality time with my partner as well? Am I including her in my activities and daily motion? Like for us guys, I think that for me personally, it didn't really quite click till a little bit later until my wife called me out on it, communicating of like, hey, like let's do things together, like spend time with me, quality time, like this stuff that's really important and valuable to her, and it probably will be for most women out there. Um, so be intentional about spending time with your wife, quality time, but also take initiative on it. Don't allow her to be the one saying, let's go do something. Why don't you go with me here? Why don't you go with me there? Hey, for a weekend, hey, this weekend I have something planned. Let's go do it on Saturday, spend the whole Saturday together doing something that, you both love or she loves, right? Take initiative as a man, take initiative as well when it comes to like stuff like planning out things and whether it's kids or jobs or finances, take initiative on that front. Don't be passive in your marriage because while you may have a wife that is, takes initiative herself, there has to be some sort of um, I don't know if it's accountability is the right word, but you as a man need to step up. Be a man, step up, right? You can't allow all the stuff, all the decision making, all the planning to come down to your wife. And it can be very easy for some guys to just sort of be in their own bubbles, be used to sort of the independent lifestyle. No, they're doing just fine, but the wife is eager to spend time with them, eager to go do things, eager for her husband to to take initiative in the relationship, and it's something that she's going to appreciate a lot. You taking initiative is most women tend to love that. It tends to draw them to you as well. It makes they're very grateful for if a man can just say, "Hey, we're gonna do this on this date. Let's have a good time together. I want to dedicate my Saturday spending time with you and having some great quality time together." So again, be intentional. And part of that being intentional is to take initiative. Being intentional stuff is saying, I'm going to set up this plan for me and my wife on this date. I'm gonna be, I want to, we're gonna have a baby coming soon. I want to be intentional about creating a plan to help the finances and the savings to make sure that when we have this baby, things are as smooth as possible. Or hey, look, right now financially we're not doing so great, so I'm going to be intentional and take initiative to try and get a raise or do a side business, right? Take that initiative, like you be the man of the house. So the next one is don't take regular days for granted, and it sort of ties to what I said previously, which was um, being intentional. If you're intentional with your days, if you're taking the initiative, it's going to be easier for you to appreciate the normal days with your wife, right? It can be very easy to sort of get into a lull and just do the same thing and kind of just let the days go by and not really take it for granted, and sort of take it for granted. That's what I'm trying to say, and take it for granted. I um Me and my wife is a unique situation because for so long we have been physically separated, and we started living together, married, right? And we got married, started living together, and all of a sudden, we were together every single day. This was a moment that we wanted for years. We had been just waiting and praying for it to come for years to be able to live together. And there were times when we were maybe a little bit ungrateful for this. There were times when we were maybe a little bit, we took it for granted, right? Even though we waited this much time to spend this time together, we waited so long for a moment like this, to be able to live together, build our lives together. Yet we even take that for granted at times. And we have to remind ourselves, like, hey, this right here. This is what we waited for so long, and we're able to live it out every single day, being together, living life together, building together, um, and sort of constructing this beautiful marriage on a daily basis. So don't take your regular days for granted. Be mindful. And I know this is silly guru stuff, whatever, but this is very real. Be grateful for having your wife. Every day, try and practice that gratitude, saying, I'm so thankful for you, and express it as well. I'm so thankful to have you in my life. I'm so thankful that you can be a part of my life. I'm so thankful that we can do life together. I'm so grateful we can um, just wake up in the same bed, right? This is stuff that we take for granted. It's very easy to, particularly if you're in a marriage longer. But I really urge you to never take it for granted. Just really be mindful of the blessing that you have, and that's also going to help you appreciate your wife more, to love her better, and all that good stuff that comes with being grateful. And it's going to make you a happy person as well. I mean, straight up, it's going to make you a happier person. It's going to affect the quality of your life. So I highly recommend you guys, and remind you guys to please don't take just the regular days for granted. Try and be again, it goes back to intentionality. Be intentional about being grateful for every day that you have with your wife, because this is a world that we live in, that anything can happen. Nothing's guaranteed. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. I know people who have lost their wives suddenly. Never take those moments for granted. So, next one is build together. Now, there's been sort of this movement, particularly like in the red pill community, that is, oh, you as a man need to have everything sorted out. You need to be at the peak, at the top, before you even think about getting married. I cannot disagree more with this frame of mind. I don't think men should wait until they've made it to find a wife. I think there's actually a lot of value in building together. And that's a big lesson that I've learned as well, because I was guilty of that too. I thought that I had to get all my stuff sorted before I married my wife. And instead, I've found that there's actually something really special and meaningful to build together and build those lives together and see both of you develop and help encourage and support each other to develop. I think a lot of times that this idea of, oh, I got to be perfect, got to be this way. No, like that's what makes marriage so beautiful, is you have these two people that are willing to give their all to each other, and in that process they're able to see each other flourish and blossom together, right? It's not just you that's going to be able to see that growth, is your wife as well. And so building together is something that's really special. And I think that, particularly on the men's side, it also helps. Like one thing for sure that I know some guys who are really well off, haven't got married, they've quote unquote made it. And a genuine concern of theirs and challenge is, how do I know that this girl that I'm dating, that this girl I'm with, isn't with me because of my status or my money, or that, how much of a factor is that in her attraction to me, right? That's genuine. I mean, a guy who's successful, who has his own business, making good money, generally that's a reflection of a man who has discipline, who's intelligent, has a work ethic, has ambition. Not always, but most times it is, right? That's what makes a guy like that attractive to women. And so uh that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. But there's something to be said about being able to there's something to be said about knowing that your wife is going to be there no matter what, right? If you lose everything, if you lose all your money, all your status, is your wife still going to be there with you, loving you and treating you with the same respect and love and care, even when you had that money compared to when you didn't, right? For me, I know for a fact my wife, it will be, is that way, because we met when we were practically kids. I had no money at all, nothing to my name. And so she fell in love with who I am and me, Caleb, right? And so it doesn't matter if I'm making, $1 trillion. I know that was never the driving force for her. And so so like I said, it's twofold. Like, yes, it's important to develop and be responsible and be able to take care of your wife and take care of yourselves together, and have to rely on your parents. You have to be responsible. I'm not saying just be done. Don't get married at 16 years old and have your parents try and pay for your relationship, right? That's irresponsible. What I'm saying is, um don't feel like you need to be a finished product to marry that person that you love, or to propose. Okay, 'cause there's a lot of value in building together, and it's a lot of fun. And that leads me to my last point here, and is that I strongly believe that being married helps you reach your full potential as a man. So this is something that may be controversial, whatever, but I genuinely believe that having a great, supportive, loving wife can help you reach your full potential as a man. When I was, even though I've been with my wife for a long time, again, I was by myself in the U.S. for a lot of that time, and during that time, I've always been an ambitious, motivated guy. But it wasn't until I married my wife, and when I married my wife and we were living together, where I felt like a whole other fire inside of me. Uh, just to sort of push me, if that makes sense. Like I felt sort of this next level of desire and work ethic and ambition to try and build something and make something, to be able to take care of my wife, to make her proud. And I think sometimes people believe that, some people say, oh, when you get married, you lose all your ambition, right? You start slacking off. That's true. That can be true. That can be true. But if your head's in the right place, if you have the right priorities, and your wife is someone that also can help push you, you'll actually find that, oh my goodness, now that I'm married, I have even more fire for life. I have even more desire and ambition to really be the best version, the best man I could possibly become, not for myself. Well, that's important, right? But for my wife, to make her proud, to give her the things that she loves, to take her places, right? And so that's something that, um, the first year of marriage taught me. Whereas I was ambitious, but man, when I had my wife here, I was like, man, I gotta do whatever it takes to reach my goals. Right? I was on fire. I was like, I have this just drive that just hit another gear that I don't think you'll be able to experience before marriage. And the next time you're going to experience something like that will be when you have kids. I don't have kids yet, but I've heard from other parents, new dads, that once you have a kid, they're just a whole other gear of energy, work ethic that you have after that. But I think that first sort of shift up comes when you get married. And so I generally believe that not only does marrying the right woman help you fulfill your potential as a man, but it also helps your wife fill her full potential as well. So that's it for this video. This has been a very real, raw sit down on the lessons that I've learned in my first year of marriage. I hope that you gain some sort of good insight. For those of you that have been sort of holding off proposing to a girl because you feel that you're not the finished product, I hope this gives you a little bit of a push to make that leap and to start building your lives together. And if you have any questions, any sort of concerns, or any sort of curiosities about my story, please, feel free to put them down in the comments. I'll try my best to get to all of them. And in the meantime, I'll see you next time.